than there are in the western parts of the world. There's more Christians in the eastern part of the world than there are in the west. So that's true diversity. Why? Because wherever the gospel goes, it doesn't matter what language, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, it doesn't matter what cultural background, because the power of God unto salvation is through the gospel, and so God is working in people to come to faith in Jesus Christ around the world. That's diversity. So in heaven, you're going to have a diverse mix of people, black, white, yellow, red, speaking all different kinds of languages. And why is that, my friends? Because the one God who created all things is the one who created all of you and us. So everyone out here today has been made by the same God. The same God. Now, it doesn't mean that you are right with God by virtue of the fact that you've been made by God. Because, my friends, the Bible says that in sin, your mothers and my mother conceived us. We were conceived in sin. And so when we come into the world, we're not a child of God when we come into the world. You have to realize that. We're not a child of God. We're actually children of the devil when we come into the world. We're rebels. We fight against God. We fight against the truth of God. We like to kill babies apart from Christ. And so we come into the world as God haters, people who don't love God, people who don't like God, people who don't like their neighbors, unless their neighbor gives them something that benefits them. So whenever you're talking about the gospel, see, the gospel is what comes and causes somebody to go from hating God to loving God. They go from loving sin to hating sin. Now, how is that possible? That's called the new birth. Christ says, unless a man is born again. What does that mean to be born again? It's a supernatural act of God. Whenever God comes in, He takes out takes out a person's heart of stone and gives them a heart of flesh. And so the God they used to hate now becomes the most glorious thing in their life. And it's not just happening to them. You have to realize, where's the diversity here? Well, it's happening to people from all parts of the globe. It's happening to people in the United States from all different walks of life. Right? Urban New York City, countryside out in Texas, Navajo reservations in New Mexico, all across the country, all across the world. People of all different tribes, all different tongues, all different races, all different types of sin in their background. You have people coming into the church. Paul talks about it in 1 Corinthians. He talks about how such were some of you. You used to be drunkards and homosexuals and sodomites, reckless and haters of each other, and people who would steal from each other. And all these types of people. And then he says, but you were washed, you were sanctified. Once you're born again, you come in and you leave that lifestyle, you leave that way of life. Why? Because you found new life in God, in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so the church consists of people from all different various types of lusts and backgrounds, and people who have been to prison, people who have been to jail, people who have murdered each other, people who are homosexuals. I got a friend actually from San Francisco. He lives in Indiana now, but he used to be a homosexual out in San Francisco. He was part of the scene. You guys would have been envious of this guy. I mean, this guy had when it comes to the homosexual scene, this guy was at the top. And yet, when God had mercy on him, he renounced all of that. And now he's a preacher of the gospel and does exactly what we're doing. He'd be here with us right now if he was here. And it's a beautiful thing because he would be the first to tell you that whenever God saves a person, they are a new creation. You talk about diversity. So now in the church you have people, former homosexuals, former drunkards, former racists. A lot of BLM people are racist. And when they're saved, they turn away from their racism. They turn away from the racism of the BLM movement. And they come in and they call upon the name of Christ. It's an amazing truth, my friend. Amazing. And how is that possible? You're taking a person and you're making them entirely different. You know what causes that, my friends? It's not politics. It's not your boots. It's not wearing a t-shirt. It's not handing out buttons. It's not giving ribbons. You can't even pay enough money. I know Joe Biden likes to pay people to be diverse. My friends, you can't pay enough money to make somebody have a change of heart. That's impossible. You know what causes the change, true change in a person? It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. You notice out here what happened earlier. They said, oh, we're diverse. But the second someone preaches, are you professor? What's the message they preach? Kick them out, right? Kick them out. The diverse crowd, kick them out. The tolerant crowd. We're tolerant until you start coming to preach. That's exactly my point. Their hearts are not changed. They're not tolerant. They're not for diversity. How do you define diversity with this group, my friend? You know how they define diversity? Whatever we like is acceptable. Whatever we don't like is not acceptable. That's tolerance in this crowd. That's diverse in this crowd. That's not true diversity. See, true diversity is what you have in the Church of Christ. The true church, those who truly love God, because these people are coming from all different countries, all different walks of life, all different economical background situations, all different kinds of academics. You have people who are top-notch philosophers and science and academicians. You have people, in fact, you have people who are like, dare I say, the scientists? I think I should say the scientists. My friends, you have modern science coming out of a Christian worldview. And then you also have people who are plumbers. You have people who are businessmen from all different walks of life. You have people who are poor. And you know what the beauty of this is? Is that it's the same Jesus Christ that we all believe in, if you're in Christ. But don't kid yourself, my friends. There's a lot of... There she is. What? What's up, Wyatt? Yeah. Wyatt, we got a diverse message today.
What?
A diverse message. Well, it's about Jesus Christ. How are you, ma'am? It's talking about Christ. I mean, there's no better message, right, than Jesus Christ. Who did I bash? Who did I bash? Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah. I wouldn't say that's bad. Is that true, though?
But you're putting others down, and you're trying to say that what's happening here isn't true diversity.
Correct.
That's literally what's happening.
That's not what's
You're
happening.
raising up voices that have been marginalized, and you're literally So do you think that you standing here is really going to change anything?
No, I can't. Yeah, no, exactly. It's about Christ. When you came over and told me a lot of what I just said.
I'm listening to your loudspeaker. It's really loud, and people are trying to talk, so that's the only reason that I hear.
Well, the speaker's only loud because the music's loud. We were actually pretty quiet, then the music turned on.
Like, why don't you go to the free speech area, which is
Well, it's all free speech
Hey,
here.
Mr.
It's the United
David,
States.
I want to get your thoughts on a video I have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I show it?
We are taking questions. Thank you, ma'am, for your concerns, though. We do have our PR director out here, Dorothy Boyd.